So let's start our. Okay. Yeah. So let's start. Minute. Setting proper motivation, and usually it consists of 3 point and visualize the refuge field, and then the Bodhicitta fields, and then the purpose of practice of the studies that we are going to do. And so visualizing the refuge field, meaning, so I see most of us are familiar with visualization. If there's some new participant, I will just explain what does it mean by visualizing refuge field. So since we are studying Buddhist psychology, so it's very important to visualize Buddha Shakyamuni in front of us, just above us. If possible, visualize very clearly as much as possible. Buddha Shakyamuni, and then His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and then all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas surrounded them. So just take a moment. And also make sure that you're sitting, very comfortably, and if possible, sit on, meditative posture, the physically meditation posture. But if not, but make sure that your spine is very straight, so that way you can visualization will come clear. So while we are visualizing the refuge field, your eyes keep half open, not completely closed or not completely open. While you're open. So, so I think I explained earlier why, while you're open, mind can get wander or distraction happen, mental distraction arise. If you completely close, mind sink, meaning mental, dullness occur. So because of that, it's very important to keep the eyes very relaxed and natural, manner, but up close and look around, at the tip of the nose, if possible. If it is not, if that is difficult, then just live as natural way. Okay, so why we are visualizing with the Shakyamuni and His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and then any other enlightened being that you use as your role model, your guidance, your protection, your, so those who are really, helping you to the path, you can visualize all of them too. So when I say, Buddha Shakyamuni and His Holiness the Dalai Lama surrounded by Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, if some of you have familiar with all the ancient Indian Nalanda masters, Arya Nagarjuna, Arya Deva, and Ajahn Chandakirti, Buddha Palita, and all of them, if possible, I see, at DNKL, you have all the pictures of the Nalanda masters in the prayer hall, and also as far as the wisdom, you all have them. So visualize them all surrounded by the, His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, and the Buddha Shakyamuni in front of us. And then especially since we're studying Buddhist psychology, and which is commentary of Pramana Samujaya or Pramana Vartika, and masters among the 17 Ananda masters, Acharya Dignaga and Acharya Dharmakirti. Those two are the most expert about business logic or business psychology, meaning the commentary of these textbooks is actually a commentary of their textbooks, Pramana Samujaya or Pramana Vartika. So try to visualize as much clear to them. Acharya Dignaga and Acharya Dharmakirti. So they are looking upon us where with loving, caring, embarrassing to us, meaning they're looking over us like their mothers looking upon their only child, meaning, when the children are in trouble, the parent come to protect us, right? Same way the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are in front of us to leading us on the right path, or helping us when you are not really sure, when you're confused. They are here to clear out the confusion. Same thing, okay? And then, and same bodhicitta feels meaning, we're doing this meditation or the practice not only just one personal, gain or, selfish reason. We want to practice, we want to learn this to share or to lead all other sentient beings with you. So for that, visualize all mother sentient beings around us. So they're all with us, meaning they're all, surrounded us to generate pure motivation to clear to eradicate this affliction or the negativities that within our mind by practicing and by learning this right path, the teachings that given by the Buddhas, the most compassionate Buddha. And then when you say Buddha Shakyamuni, who appeared on this earth like 2,500 years before, but now His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who is the Buddha actually in real human form, that way we can see him and we can hear him and we can really look at him. So visualize His Holiness the Dalai Lama very clearly as much as possible in front of us. And as we all know that his smile, his swift communicating with people, so he is here for us to lead us from the confusion or the suffering or complaint or conflict. And he is here to helping us to clear all this problem and leading us to to freedom or to free from all the negativities, the free from all the conflict or the problem, the agitation, that anything that happening within our mind or our societies. So that's very important to bring His Holiness. And His Holiness often say, maybe these are really important to remember. If you think that you are my student, then you have to practice compassion, love and kindness, and then wisdom, emptiness. This is he often says. And then also sometimes he says, when you are getting some angry or some of the, what do you call it, the mental negativities arising within your mind stream, and he often say, try remember my name, my face. That's very, if you try to remember his face clearly, it gives us some soothe, some sort of very pleasant feeling. So that's why it's very important to visualize him, maybe feel him that he is in front of us, and really beautiful smile and loving, caring to us, each and every one of us who are in first person here, and then also the all mother sentient beings are, joining us, who are looking to His Holiness, receiving blessing from Him, blessing of compassion. So when you say compassion, it's a wish that free all beings from suffering. Suffering are known as, suffering change, and then permissive condition suffering, all forms of suffering. So His Holiness wanted to free each and every being free from suffering. That's very clear that we all know that, okay? So feel very strongly that His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who is the real Buddha, meaning You can consider His Holiness is the emanation of Buddha Shakyamuni in human form on this earth. Walking on the same earth where we are walking, breathing the same air that we are breathing, and we also then drinking the same water that we are drinking. I mean, so feel so fortunate that we have the Buddha with us. So it took a few more moments to think about the kindness and the compassion and the nonviolence, loving, caring message that His Holiness have given to us, to the world. Okay, so the visualization of the refuge field and then the bodhicitta for the refuge field mean we are like a little baby who are not really able to walk the way we wish to walk, meaning our life, our journey. And we all want, happiness, meaning the happiness that gives you great, deep, deep joy. And we all wish the happiness as well as peace, the complete peace. It's peace meaning free from fear, free from attachment, free from aversion, free from stinginess, free from jealousy, free from all the mental negativities. If we are free from all the mental affliction, the mental negativities, and then we will be free from in all other forms of suffering. So that's why when we are seeking happiness and peace, and we need someone help, someone guidance, someone blessing, in the form of blessing, meaning when I say blessing in their compassionate message, their compassionate guidance, their compassionate and still compassionate guidance, that really help us to how to really eradicate, how to minimize these negativities, and then eventually completely remove from roots. So it's very possible because we all have the seed of perfection or the Buddha nature, known as the Buddha nature, right? So the seed of perfection means that or our mind have the capacity to become completely free from all affliction and then endowed all long-lasting happiness. So the purpose of practice is to, eliminate the negativities and then gain all the knowledge. The knowledge include compassion, loving kindness, caring, knowing the reality as it is with a very open-minded, so wisdom, that we all have the capacity to shine our wisdom like very, very bright shining light that coming from diamond. So the diamond symbolizes our Buddha nature or the perfection, the seed of perfection. So if you make our mind more open, skillful by learning the reality clearly, seeing how things appear and how things exist. And if we know, when we are able to know how things exist and how the reality, because the ignorance actually that not knowing the reality, because of that, it lead us to attachment, aversion, and then leaving those, neutral, not ignoring sort of thing. So we just look at all the mothers and beings are our mothers, our parents, or our most source of benefit for ourselves. So that's why bodhicitta feels very important. So the more you think about, oh dear mothers and beings, and when you say that, I think aversion towards someone others and excessive attachment toward some, it will slowly disappear, and then the loving caring for everyone increase. That's what His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Buddhist Shakyamuni want to us. Okay, so the purpose of practice was the purpose of learning any teaching that related with the Shakyamuni, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and all the Nalanda Master is meant to tame our mind, remove the mental dirt, the negativity of our mind. If we are able to remove the mental dirt, then our physical, the verbal, negativity naturally, automatically, stop. So that's why in a study, the psychology is very important. So when you say psychology, so there are many different forms of psychologists there, but out of many, Buddhist psychology is really learning, looking our mind and how it react. So everything's follow the mind because in the textbooks where he's all what the Pramanavartika says and what Dharmapada says, and then I think verses from Charitantrikriti says, and then His Holiness, and like what he says about the Buddhist psychology and the mind, and the definition of, just try to recall again the definition of the mind. Definition here is meaning. What does it mean by mind? And then the mental is, so these are quite important to keep in mind, keep our mind. So when you say mind, it's separate than the brain, for sure that. So make sure that mind is different than the body, but we're not going to go to the emptiness things. So just we are learning the very basic things, and Uh, so before just starting the text, I just want to recite one verse from, actually the salutation of Arya Nagarjuna, fundamental wisdom, middle way. And I think some of you know it's just one verse, but I'll just recite that. It's very important, okay? Enthused by great compassion, you taught the Immaculate Dharma to dispel all poverty view. To you, the Buddha Gautama, I pay homage. Enthused by great compassion, you taught the Immaculate Dharma to dispel all poverty views. To you, the Buddha Gautama, I pay homage. Enthused by great compassion, you taught the Immaculate Dharma to dispel all erroneous view. To you, the Buddha Gautama, I pay homage. Just try to generate pure motivation and some devotion, convictions to the Buddhas and His Holiness. That's very important. Okay, so Venerable Tendala says she finished, she did the direct perceiver, and I'll continue where she left, and she made very beautiful slide. Chupala, do you have her slide? I think it's you can share that one. It's very good one.
I do. Sure, I'll do that.
Okay. Yeah, share the slide that she shared in the morning with the chat. Yeah. So direct value perceiver. Direct value perceivers are of 4 types. Okay. So when you say direct value perceiver, but so direct valid perceiver and direct perceiver are different, right? So make sure that direct valid perceiver and direct perceivers are two different. Here it says direct valid perceiver are 4 types: sense direct perceiver, mental direct perceiver, self-cognizant direct perceiver, and yogi direct perceivers. So I think, did she cover all 4 of them? Chapela, do you remember? I think she said she covered. Let me check.
She didn't get to everything last week.
Oh, okay. And static perceiver. Yeah, she did synthetic perceiver. Okay. So when you say what do you get when you say like a direct perceiver? Direct perceiver meaning there's no, in the subject engage into the object directly. There's no other, like other medium, meaning mental consciousness, sorry, the conceptual mind engage to the object through the generic image, meaning the conceptual mind never engage into the object directly. That's why direct perceiver are why it's indirect. It's the object the object appear to the subject, which is the mind, the consciousness, directly. So that's a direct perceiver. Direct, that's what you mean direct. So perceiver is the perceiving. So subject perceive the object. Okay. So sense direct perceiver are 5 that I think everybody know that, right? Can someone say what are the 4 direct perceivers? Other than Venerable Toyola, you know that. Venerable Chobel, you know, so you don't have to say anything. Others, so those are the 5 direct perceivers. Can someone say how many directs in a sense direct perceiver? Any volunteer? How many sense direct perceivers? I mean, sense perceivers. What happened?
4 direct
Five.
perceivers. Oh, 5. Oh, it
Okay.
doesn't mean for this
Who's
5 sense direct perceiver. Oh, the 5 sense direct perceiver. Let's see.
all the five sense are direct perceiver. All five sensory consciousness are direct perceiver. Necessary, right? All five sense consciousness are always direct perceiver. Sense direct perceiver. When you say the number one, the direct perceiver, number one is sense direct perceiver, right? So yes, sense, you can say the sense direct perceiver, but sensory consciousness, all the sensory consciousness are always direct perceiver. Do you agree or not? Direct perceiver meaning there's no any other sort of medium between the object and the subject. The subject is, for example, eye consciousness. When the eye consciousness see color and shape, or like its own object, so the eye consciousness see the object directly. So it is not through any other, not through anything else. So that was it mean, okay? So all five sensory consciousness are direct perceiver. And then you can check about the ear and the nose and then the smell and then the tongue, the taste, and then the body consciousness, perceive that the touch. So you can ask a question if you have time. You can do some discussion or debate, when you're meeting, one-to-one or something like that. Until now, we had just the class, not really just about discussion, but I think we can do discussion too. So sense direct perceivers. Observe object condition. I see. Okay, maybe did she go through the three condition? Okay, for example, when the eye consciousness arise and then perceive its respective object, color and shape, and it has to have three conditions. The eye consciousness, in order to be able to eye consciousness to perceive the respective object, color and shape. So you have to have three conditions. The three conditions are observed object condition, and then uncommon empowering condition, and immediately preceding conditions. So the condition, the eye, in order to be able to eye consciousness arise, and so for example, the eye consciousness observe the flower, let's say that. And the eye consciousness observing perceiving the flower. So the object condition has to be there, meaning the flower should be there. And then that's the object condition of the object. And then the eye sense power is the uncommon empowering, empowering condition. So if the eye sense power is damaged, or eye sense power is not functioning, it's impossible the eye consciousness perceive its respective object, like a color or shape or any visual object. So because of that, the common, the empowering condition, this is what you come on. And how is that look like? Miki Wangbo in Tibetan, eye sense power. It's not the eyeball, it's not the retina, it's something very subtle. So this actually more in detail. You have to have some like a another reference book need to be read, to understand these three, three conditions. So the uncommon empowering condition is something that very subtle, but without eye sense power is there, it's impossible the eye consciousness arise and then, perceive its object. And then the immediate preceding conditions, immediate preceding is a, it has the I think immediate preceding condition is the main thing. It's a consciousness that it's really the what do we call it? Menurut can you hear me?
Yes, I mean, yes.
Immediately preceding condition.
Mhm.
So can you explain what you understand with that in English?
Sure. Well, it's basically
Matakin.
right. It's what allows there to be a continuity of consciousness. I mean, to have this
Right.
moment of an eye consciousness perceiving a flower, then there needs to be something that connects, that consciousness to the stream of consciousness. So you have to have a preceding moment, essentially, a preceding consciousness.
Matakin.
Or otherwise, consciousness can't just arise out of nothing. It has to arise out of a preceding consciousness. So that's the Dhamma or the immediately preceding condition.
Right.
It's the one that if you look at the definition,
okay.
it's the condition that gives the consciousness its quality of being clarity and awareness. Right?
Yeah. One thing is, I was just wondering, when you're talking about the, the consciousness, in order to the consciousness arise and manifest, and then perceived it in a immediate, the is respective object. So the what do you call it? I wonder if this is what do you call it? The consciousness, the first moment of the consciousness need to be arise in the previous consciousness that caused you the primary cause, right? Substantial cause and cooperative cause. You know that? We haven't done that anymore. Anyway, sorry. Yeah. So this three condition is that mind consciousness need to be arise previous consciousness. If there is no continuity of the previous consciousness, it's impossible that consciousness arise in the second moment, or third moment, or the fourth moment. It's all other than consciousness cannot be caused as a primary consciousness, which is known as the primary cause when you study the cause, primary cause, and then the substantial cooperative cause. So I think the third one, immediate preceding condition, is very important. So the consciousness give rise only if there is a previous previous continuity of the consciousness. So then you can do some debate about the sensory consciousness arise, and whether this lifetime we all have the sensory consciousness. So what happened when you die? So these are kind of debate out there whether these five sensory consciousness travel to the next life or not, and whether our five consciousness, the continuity of our, and that, for example, take some example like a newly born baby, say for example, the mother womb, okay. So the baby's five sensory consciousness, whether these came from the previous life five sensory consciousness or what, or whether they derive from the from the parents or what. These are some that we need to do some discussion. But the mental consciousness, it's definitely came from the previous, continue to previous come, and then they travel to the future. But they live this lifetime, it came, if we go back, it came from the previous consciousness. Same thing, the eye consciousness also have to have the immediate perceiving condition. And here we are just talking one example about how the eye consciousness arise. So what, I think last time we were discussing a little bit of when we are sleeping, whether we have a sensory consciousness active or not. Some say some of them are active, some of them maybe not. I thought, most of when you are really in deep sleep, the five sensory consciousness they are not shut down, but they are in active state. So they are not active state. The mental consciousness definitely active state, always there. Well, there are some occasion that mental consciousness also not active state. These are some different textbooks they say that. But when we are really sleeping, and then because we can't hear, we can see. I think who was that? I think Scout, right? Scout was saying that even though when you're sleeping, the sensory consciousness are active too. So, Scout, can you give some example? How do you have any experience that when you're sleeping, your eye, ear, nose are consciousness are active?
Well, yeah, we kind of talked about this before. Like, I know when I'm sleeping, I'm a very light sleeper, and I hear if my
Oh,
dog moves in the other room. Like, I hear that even if I'm sound asleep and my dog moves and comes, gets off the bed in the other room, I hear him. If there's anything outside, I hear him. And I always think like if there was a bright flash of light, even though I'm sleeping, like you tend to notice a bright flash. Somebody turned the lights on in your bedroom. If they were totally quiet, but they turn the light on in your bedroom while you're sound asleep, you're going to wake up from that stimulus. So, like you were saying, I think that they are in a subdued state, but they're still active.
mm.
I agree with Scott Geshema. I do. I think that when sometimes I think they're at rest, right? I think your mental consciousness may be a little bit more in tune because some of the other consciousnesses are a little bit at rest. But I think that most of us, if there were, our nose consciousness, like if there's a fire in the house, we smell the smoke and the fire, right? And that wakes us up. So sometimes I don't hear a lot of noise, but I do feel like that my mental consciousness when I'm sleeping is more alert because, sometimes when your dreams come in or whatever you want to say that is, definitely because I feel like the other ones are resting, that becomes more aware.
Right. These are very important kind of topic. Need to do some research. Because I can't remember exactly where, but I learned that in some time in my class that sensory consciousness. I mean, when you're light sleep meaning when you're not really completely sleep, so you are about to sleep.
Well,
So when you're
I think
really
I think what Scott was saying is I think people like he is
Mhm.
a light sleeper and I'm a heavy sleeper. Like I think it depends on
Okay.
how much
Right.
your body goes into that sleep
Mhm.
part.
Mhm. Mhm.
But if you don't mind, if we could back up for a second, because something that you said just kind of you were talking about like when
Inactive.
your senses come from like do they come from your parents or when you're reborn? So if you are alive when you're alive and you can see or you can hear, but then when you're reborn deaf or you cannot see. So that's kind of like when you were
Mm.
talking about that previously, it made me start like I started my mind just kind of like started thinking like
Don't
does
worry, don't
that
worry. This is
transition, right?
no, I because like Lama Tsongkhapa's one of Lama Tsongkhapa's main disciple, Jason Wuche. There's one textbooks called Picture Wuche, which has mentioned about the present life five sensory consciousness
Mm-hmm.
was give rise from the previous life, this is the verse that I remember from Brahmanavartika debate. So it has continuity from the previous life.
Mm.
So, these are kind of interesting thing. But anyway, so the consciousness, understand the consciousness is very important. And the main thing is, when we are studying about the consciousness, direct perceiver, and then in the opposite of direct perceiver, not exactly opposite, but the indirect perceiver or the direct perceiver, opposite of the direct perceiver is what? Conceptual mind. Okay, so so non-direct perceiver, maybe non-direct perceiver. You could say the non-direct perceiver. So when you say direct perceiver, it's always referred to the subject. So in Tibetan, you say Yul Yulchen. So which meaning Yul meaning object, Yulchen meaning subject. So the subject and the objects all the time interacting. And then how the interaction taking place, some subject interacting to the object directly, and then others are indirectly or through the generic image. This is the mental, the conceptual mind. So then leave this yogi direct perceiver aside, and then the subconscious and perceiver is really one complication is there, and mental direct perceiver. Let me see, sense direct perceiver, mental direct perceiver, subconscious and direct perceiver, yogi direct perceivers. Okay. We need to make the differentiation. I mean, of course, it's not easy to make the differentiation between the sensory consciousness and then the mental consciousness. Anybody have any thought about what does it mean to you, mental consciousness, and what does it mean to you, direct perceiver? So, like sensory consciousness. So I think we have the definition. Chupila, I'm sorry, can you give the definition of this sensory conscious and then I think it's not in the, I don't think it's in the, let me see.
Is it in the other text that you were using? I have that available as well.
Yeah, in the other kinds, other textbooks, not in the PowerPoint that Pendula made. So yes, visual sense consciousness types of consciousness. Okay, maybe go to a little down to the definition. I think it all has the definition there. Yes. Okay, here. Maybe leave there. Oops. Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, mental direct perceiver, and maybe go a little bit up to the sensory direct perceiver. Maybe up, a little bit up. Oh, it doesn't have the mean. Yes, yeah, here. So through the definition, we get some sense, some kind of idea about what does it mean by sense direct perceiver, and then the mental one, okay? A non-mistaken, non-constructive knower that is produced upon the aggregation of three conditions. So you need to know this, what does it mean, non-mistaken. So non-mistaken meaning is direct perceiver, but the direct perceiver, not all direct perceiver are non-mistaken. So there are direct perceiver mistaken. So this is sense direct perceiver. So a non-mistaken, non-conceptual knower which is produced upon the aggregation of three conditions. This is direct perceiver, which means which cognize it object. Okay, so a non-mistaken, non-conceptual knower. Knower. You have the keyword. Knower is the keyword here. So the knower is the keyword. So, but then you can do the little discussion about when our eye consciousness know its object, do the person who had the eye consciousness also know or not? Would you say that person is knower or not? You can make some, discussion on that. The person is knower or not? And what do you think?
I think the person is a knower.
A person is knower.
Yeah, the person is a knower.
Can you explain why? How?
I don't have any complicated explanation other than it would be absurd to say that I'm observing a chair in front of me that I'm not seeing it, the person. My eyes are seeing it, but it'd be absurd to say I'm not seeing it.
Okay, the person is knower. So would you say the person is consciousness?
No.
So the person is not consciousness. The person is not subject. I mean, I said subject and object. Anything that exists in the universe, it's fall into two. It's subject and object. So the person is existent, right? So it has to fall one of those, subject or the object.
Okay.
So when you say the person is knower of the visual, let's say here, just use the visual consciousness, which know its respective object. You can take like an example of flower. So the eye consciousness know the flower, and then the person who have the eye consciousness also know the flower. So in that case, both the person and then the person eye consciousness become a knower of the flower. If that is if that is the case, then when you say the person is subject,
I would say the person
and
is the subject.
the person is
case.
subject.
The flower's object.
Yeah, okay, the person is subject. The person is the consciousness?
The consciousness is one part of the person.
No. I'm just actually the person.
Yeah.
The person is subject, is a knower, nor the object. So when you say the person is a subject, then it's necessarily be one of the consciousness. Sorry, it necessarily be the consciousness then.
Well,
So are you saying the person is consciousness?
I can't say that, right? Because the person also includes.
Because it's a knower. Because
It-
it's knower.
The
Knower.
Knower, yes.
The person
knower,
is knower of the object.
yes.
knower, but not
Remember
conscious.
the definition of consciousness, clear and knowing, right? Clear and knowing. So knower, the very knower is the main thing, that. So the person is knower.
Yeah, knower is more
Just
is more like token. Token ra.
token and
Token.
token
Knowers are not tokens over it. Recans
token
over
lagora.
it. They dig it out. They encourage na knower like girl. It is not to ingit it. Repas and knower running feeding on. I think maybe that using this, what the debate reveals is that this term knower is actually not, because this term in Tibetan is intended to be something that's limited to consciousness, but of course people are knowers. There's no question, right? Yeah. So it's a little bit of a mistranslation, actually.
Why? Okay.
What is the
Okay, why
It's written
you
so
say
it's
people are
awareness.
knower? No, I'm
Yeah.
asking why
Because
people are knower.
A non-conceptual knower.
Because we know things. We're subjects that know
No.
things.
Listen. Why people are knower?
Because we know things.
Because you know things. Person, who is person? What is person? The mind or the body?
The
No. I thought, the person mind know things. Because of that, we label the person know. But in reality, the person mind or the person mind know things, the object, not the person.
But then the person can't do anything if you say that.
Yeah, no.
It's everything the
By
person
knowing
does
the
is
person
dependent on either the
consciousness,
mind
the
or body
person,
doing something.
the person is, the person meaning, okay, what is person? Anybody have any idea about what is person?
Go on.
It's the collection of the senses, the consciousnesses, the body existing in a specific location, in a specific time that's constantly changing. But all those things are within the person.
All those things are within the person.
Within the person, even though they're changing and they could change so that you can't, I could go blind or something, and they wouldn't, then I wouldn't have the I consciousness anymore. But the consciousnesses, the material body, the
consciousness
the
material?
ability to
What are you saying?
constantly change, all those things
No.
are
I'm
in
asking.
a person.
I'm asking what
They're
is
part of a
person?
person. That's what it is. It's a collection.
Which one?
A
Collection of
person is a
what? The
collection.
aggregate? Collection of the 5 aggregate?
I forgot the terms. We're a bunch of things.
Okay. The
That's
collection of
my
the 5
opinion.
aggregate as a
I'm
person?
also studying books.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting.
I don't know. What
No.
else could it be?
What? Geshema is a person, not the 5 aggregates.
No. Okay. The 5 aggregates belong to the person. So the person is okay. Let's say okay. This why we are doing this discussion? I thought why. I know. Okay. Anyway, don't worry. A non-mistaken, non-conceptual knower, which is produced upon the aggregation of 3 conditions. This is the definition of direct perceiver. And then you give some thought about non-mistaken. What does it mean, non-mistaken? And then give thought on the what does it mean by non-conceptual, and then knower, right? And then the thing is knower that is produced upon the aggregation of the 3 conditions. So non-mistaken, non-conceptual knower. So Neil, you were saying person is knower. So if the person is knower, okay, would you say the person is knower of non-mistake? The person is knower of non-mistaken, non-conceptual. Sorry, how do you say? A person, a non-mistaken, non-conceptual knower, which is produced upon the aggregation of 3 conditions. Sorry, I think it's why I asked that. I think in one textbooks in the philosophical text, and the subject there are identify 3. So the subject and object, and subject and object. The subject there are 3 subjects that identify consciousness, person, and sound. I don't know why they count sound as a subject. I mean, and I think in a venerable thing, you know that, right? In Paramahanavatika or somewhere that it's mentioned. But then it says the person and then the sound are namesake subject. It's not the real subject. So the real subject is the consciousness. So the person and the sound maybe here, I think mostly like the labeling. When you're labeling for, like a per person, we are naming people or naming things, right? Labeling things. And then it's the sound actually when you say Neil, Carrie, Scott, when you call this sound with the label, so people will identify such thing. And so because of that, I guess they, count it as a subject, but it's namesake subject. You can find in the classical textbooks, it says namesake subject rather than subject. If it is namesake subject, it's not subject. So if it is not subject, then the person is not, knower. Yes, the limitation of the language and the language barrier could be there, but I think we have to stick with what it's, in Tibetan, you say, Rigpa, right? So the Rigpa is the main thing. Knower here, you should be referred to the Rigpa. Rigpa, Rigpa, right? In Tibetan, it's a Rigpa, mean it's knower, it's a perceiver, okay. In other words, perceiver. So perceiving object necessarily be consciousness, necessarily be mind, not other than mind, not any other than the mind can perceive things. So because of that, I think person is not perceiver. The person is not perceiver. Person is not knower. But it sounds kind of odd, but I think that's the reality. And you can argue And then again about the the dream. I'm sorry, the sleeping time when you're sleeping, very deep sleeping. I don't think the five sensory consciousness are active, but you never know. But mental consciousness definitely. And then you can do some kind of experiment ourselves. And when you are really deep sleeping, and we get some dream, right? And some dream are very clear, and so how many of you have any very clear dream that you are listening somebody's teaching or somebody telling you certain thing, and you hear what he or she is telling you, and then when you wake up you remember very clearly? Of course, in the dreams are dreams, it's illusion, like it's not really real, but some dreams are some kind of message, sometimes calm. So how many of you heard some in dream? You were listening, for example, you were really listening, teaching or attending some class, and you remember what they were teaching or telling you in the dream, and then you remember when you wake up, when you woke. Can you tell, Alison? Share your yes, Alison.
Hi, I'm from Oregon joining. Great respect for your teaching. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I've had a dream before where I was sitting in a Dharma talk and the teacher was in front of me and I couldn't see their face, but I could hear their words. I was sitting behind them. They were kind of in the audience as well, although they were teaching. And so I was hearing an audio teaching. And when I woke up, it was something that I remembered. So
I see.
it
So
was
you remember
visual.
what? So you remember when you were when you woke, right?
Mhm.
And are they real or not? That's a different story. Dreams are very interesting. I think we need to study a little bit of dream. Okay, dream mind. So dream mind. What do you think? The dream mind is sensory consciousness or mental consciousness?
Mental.
It's mental. Why not sensory?
Because I do think the senses are suppressed in sleep, and the dreams that I have are very visual. So there's a vision, which is an inner, there's vision, but there's not
Visual in the sense.
smell, there's
Visual in the
not
sense. Okay, you say visual. Visual in the sense what? A visual meaning it's appear to the eye or different?
no, it's different.
Okay, okay. What do you mean by visual? Can you explain that?
I can still picture the dream. I can still picture the room.
Oh, your mind can picture the dream.
Yes, my mind can picture the dream.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, don't worry. So yeah, dream minds and mental consciousness, not it's sensory. Sensory consciousness never dream, I think. But you never know. You never know. But mental sensory consciousness never dream. So because the sleep mind is your mental consciousness. That's right, I think. So then okay, now the dream mind is direct perceiver or conceptual mind?
Conceptual.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's it. That's right. Okay, now, so what we need to know is not mistaken, and then yeah, you need just try to memorize, if possible, memorize the definition, and then do some observation about just give some thought about the three conditions, how it arise, the uncommon empowering. These are you need to read a little bit more about the uncommon empowering condition. How is it look like? You remember? I'm not sure whether you have translated that textbook. The founder of IBD, Institute of Buddhist Didactic School, and Gen Lobsang Kyasula. He have written one, textbooks on Buddhist psychology, and he have explained very detail about how these three conditions, and then the five sensory consciousness, the sense power. It's not the eyeball, not the the eye organ, but it's something very unique. It's located in the eye, but it's like a very crystal kind of clear. And so I think they may have translated that into English. I will make some inquiry with that. And that has very detailed explanation and given some example how it is really look like. They have made some kind of picture which you can visual this all the eye and the nose and the ears and the the bodies and the tongues, all of them are there because scientifically you say tongue like the test bud, and then the eye conscious, so the eyes, what is that? The scientific explanation is slightly different than the the Buddhist psychology explanation, how this, the sensory consciousness engage into the object. But the three conditions, I don't think the neuroscientists explain about the three conditions. I'm not sure. Maybe they do or maybe not. Probably not. But if do, we can do some comparison between these things. But I think most important thing is I think we just try to do experiment ourselves. How this mental, how can you really make the differentiation between the sensory consciousness and then the mental consciousness? The sensory consciousness are not reliable, and then mental consciousness is more reliable. And the sensory consciousness are more like where it arises when the object is in front of you. If the object is not in front of us, it doesn't arise. The mental consciousness can travel anywhere. You can perceive all sorts of things, even though you are not really interacting with the object directly. So the mental consciousness is so powerful that you could when you study the meditation or generating compassion, loving kindness, bodhicitta, thinking about like wisdom and emptiness, and visualizing His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Buddha, and then visualizing all Mother Sentient beings around us, and try to share the loving and caring to them. These are all done by the mental consciousness, right? So it's really important to make more attention to the mental consciousness. Of course, at the same time, take care of our body, keep our body healthy, physical body healthy, and then that keep our sensory consciousness more active. But the sensory consciousness have some limitation. When you are getting older and older, and then the sensory consciousness are getting weaker, we won't be able to see things than when you used to see when you are young. We won't be able to hear when you were young. You were hear very well, and then ours now. These are by aging, the sensory consciousness are more like in decline. But the mental consciousness, if you train, if you do really, like a meditation, for example, like Singapore meditation or analytical meditation, and the mental consciousness, the mind can do so much improvement, and then the clarity see, and then you can see this in some example of, for example, there are some great meditator who are like at the age 90s or maybe nearly 100, and they can't hear well, they can't see, their eyes and the ears, and they are not able to see or they're able to not hear. But when you ask something, their minds are so sharp and clear, and they are very vivid. This is the clear indication, the meditation, contemplation that really help us to keep our mind very balanced, very assertive, and very clear. And these are very, Venerable, you remember that we went to see when Venerable Geshe Pandita and then the Gandhi Rinpoche in Devung, right? And they are like in 90s, 95 or something. And when they are teaching, and they're so clear, and but their presence is very different. And I remember one time, the Gandhi Tipa means the heirs of Lama Tsongkhapa. One of the Lamas, the Gandhi Tipa, I think the 102, the one from Ladakh, Rizung Rinpoche, maybe some of you know. And I went to see him one time here in Dharamsala. He was 94 at that time, I think. And I went to see him, and then he said, I can't hear well and I can't see the eyes. But when you are asking something, he's so clear and sharp. It's something very, very, very unique. So that's why, when you do some meditation and make some differentiation between, try to understand how the sensory consciousness work and how the mind work, the mental consciousness work. It's because, we're talking all the trouble, conflict, problems, suffering. It's, you can minimize if you train our mind, you know, day by day, and pay more attention on the how the destructive emotion meaning some of the emotion that arise and it disturb your mind. And then when you're really thinking about the loving kindness, compassion, tolerance, patience, this, and that give you some, satisfaction. You feel so proud that I was able to do this meditation, or the meditation don't necessarily have to sit and very serious, but in a way, wherever you're walking, or wherever you're interacting with people, with the mindfulness, but in the mindfulness, with the mindful, and then also the very, like alertness and like assertive, and it's really help, I think, right? So because of
Geshema,
that, yes,
Geshema. So it
yes.
sounds like you're implying that if there's a physical diminishment, then there's a consciousness diminishment. So if somebody has dementia, are you saying the mental consciousness is being diminished? Or
No,
you're
no, no,
saying
no, no.
because if
I'm not
someone
saying.
has physical, like if you're saying their eyesight goes, their eye consciousness is diminished. So that's what it sounded like you were saying. So how does that equate for the mental consciousness if they have a physiological mental lapse or diminishment from dementia or something? That how is that altering their mental consciousness? Like what's the
No, no, no.
correlation
I'm not.
there?
No, I said, I think I may share some of the meditator experience. I mean, they are great meditator who have their mind is so sharp and clear,
Mhm.
and they can remember, they can recall things where they share their knowledge, their realization clear. This is all mental consciousness. But I was sharing some when the sensory consciousness maybe decline when you are aging, your physical body is aging.
So
But
the sensory
it's a
consciousness, though, is tied to the
but
ability of
maybe
the sense.
the sensory consciousness may get weaker if when the sense power, the physical body is getting weaker. The sensory consciousness may have some connect. This is my kind of, I don't know, I could be wrong, because the sensory consciousness, for example, uh one example I was sharing, there was one great teacher in Dharamsala who was like a very, very special, teacher, especially like color chakra teaching. And, the, I don't know whether this has to do something with the physiology or the meditation, the power of the meditation. For example, someone who have like a cancer, really, 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 really bad cancer, but because of their practice is so strong, and they can't, even though physically they may have pain, but their mind is stay very calm, and their face is like just sparkling, like kind of a radiance. There's no devastation sort of feeling or sign from this. I don't know how these work. Dementia, it's dementias happen due to what?
Well, it could be hereditary, it could be environmental. We don't know all the causes. Yeah, like what's the,
Vascular.
yeah, like what's the reasoning behind it? Whether it's things that the person does or things that they inherited again from their environment or their genealogy, their DNA, it's not always clear. Like science doesn't, I don't know, think that we have all those answers. but I was just trying to understand
Mm.
what the correlation between the physiological component and the consciousness. Like I always think of the consciousness as kind of being separate from the physiology, kind of like your person and mind thing that we were debating a minute ago. Like how do those two things fit together? From the body versus the consciousness. Because it sounded like you were saying that the eye consciousness diminishes as the eyesight diminishes. Well, if that's true, then the mind consciousness diminishes as if the brain goes. And so I wasn't sure where we were going with that.
So, okay. Do you think that the mind is located in the brain? That was you're saying?
Well, no, that's what I was just saying.
It sounded like you were saying the converse.
Yeah, it sounds like you were saying that the eye consciousness diminished as the eyesight diminished, and if that's true, then the mind would be diminished as the mental capacity diminished in the brain. So I just wasn't. I thought we were kind of.
No. I think I said. Don't get mistaken. I think maybe I said something wrong. Maybe I used the wrong kind of language, I guess here. But I said this is my kind of, and I'm just saying something, but I don't have any kind of textual source. I was saying sensory consciousness are not reliable because they are so much dependent on external stimulus, right? And the mental consciousness have the power to make a lot of progress, improvement, meaning improvement of the constructive part, and then try to eradicate the destructive part, meaning the negative parts. So the mental consciousness is the main. So I think I shared there are 4 reliance. Have you heard the 4 reliance? It's 4 reliance. 4 reliance meaning rely on the mental consciousness, not the sensory consciousness. The sensory consciousness are so much like outwardly. It is just because the observe object condition. So if the condition is not, if the object for the sensory consciousness, if the object is not interacting directly to the mind, the sense consciousness, impossible to arise. But the mental consciousness can arise. You could, for example, do some, and let's do some kind of experiment. Close your eyes. We do meditation now. We're trying to, we are trying to learn, try to understand the sensory consciousness are stable. When we meditate, we are meditating, the mental consciousness meditating or contemplating, not the sensory consciousness. The sensory consciousness, I'm saying it's not reliable, meaning it's very much dependent on external stimulus. So that's what I think that was my main focus. And then it has some limitation. This is what I said, but it could be wrong. You could give some thought. If you disagree, we can discuss like that. Let's close your eyes. Let's do some meditation. Close our eyes and think something that you have very profound experience in the past. Profound experience meaning so when you are seeing some great beings who have benefited so many beings around the world with their compassion and understanding. If anybody have any experience, very, very soothing, very, very, like a pleasant that stay for life. You can think of that, right? Can you? Okay. Anybody have any recalling some past experience about some soothing, some profound experience? by having some audience with someone who is really special on this earth, or your parents or your teachers or friends?
Yeah, I have a good one that I was just thinking about. It was just kind of
Can you
recalling
share?
recently.
Can you share? Is that Niels?
No, this is Jason. Hi, Geshema.
Jason, okay. Can you share what how
Yeah,
you when
so
you're
I
okay?
was at my brother's graduation from Northeastern. This was like 2014, maybe. Yeah, probably around like
Oh,
2014. And was it 2016 when he graduated? Was when I started college. Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah, that sounds right. 2016, 2017. And I was in the audience, and like, they had the different faith leaders come up and
mm,
give their talks. And then this bald, you know, Buddhist nun came up, and I didn't know anything. Like, I was just graduating high school or whatever. And she started
mm,
speaking, and I was just like ringing like a bell is how I describe the
mm,
experience. Like, it was like a really
mm,
intense, like bodily experience, and just like her words of like loving compassion and kindness and like wishing well on all sentient beings, just like the tone and the spirit of of like her speech just really, really deeply impacted me. And it's like an occasion that I
mm,
go back to. And I've been meaning to like ask my brother if he has a recording of that commencement speech, because I want to know, like, wait, who even was that? And I was just listening to Thupten
mm,
Chodron recently, and I was like, man, was it Thupten? It could have been. I'm not sure, but so I want to like go back and try
That's
to find that out.
wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Anyone else have any memory to share? And I have one I could share, but I want to listen because the memory is carried by the mental consciousness, right? We all agree with that, right? That the memory is carried by the mental consciousness. It's planted in as a imprint, leaves as the imprints on the mental consciousness that it carry for the future. Okay. Anybody have any other profound or maybe some very, very special moment experience? I could share one thing. It's very important, that one. It's really okay. And I think there was in 1995, and the first it's known as a annual nuns debate. Okay. Then for the first time, for the Tibetan Buddhist nuns gathered together, nuns coming from different areas, gathered together in Dharamsala at Ngan Chiling, and we did study together for a month. And then the main topics is the Pramanavartika Chandrakirti, sorry, Dharmakirti. So I think just before about 10 days, finishing the novel debate, somebody arranged for us to have an audience with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Oh no, we debate, but we had a debate in front of him the day before, and the next day we had an audience with His Holiness inside His Holiness the Dalai Lama residence. And then that time we were so innocent, I think, and the faith into the Dalai Lama, of course, is so deep. Like it comes from very of childhood, I guess. But anyway, the thing is, the memory I would share here. When we enter into the in Dalai Lama's like a resident, and we feel like wow, we are entering into some very special, like almost like entering into this like a Buddha's field or something like that. And then when we enter into the hall, and we all stood in line by that. I think there were about 250 nuns coming from 5 different nunneries, one from South India, 3 from Dharamsala, I think 4 at that time, yes. And then we were just, sitting just, line by, and somehow I happened to stay at the front row. And I feel so fortunate. Wow, we're here just in front of the look at the Shora, meaning the Buddha of compassion. And then it was very clear, doing like a very single pointedly thinking only what exactly happening in here, nothing else. And I was just watching, and we're waiting to His Holiness to enter into the hall, and I feel so fortunate. And then what happened? One thing I remember is that's so interesting, and I was just looking down to I feel like we have to be really compassionate. We have to be really, like assertive, attentive, anything that whatever is happening here and anything, watching to the security people and then the His Holiness attendants. And we're just trying to everything, just observe, just fully, completely there, both the body and mind inside there. And I remember how His Holiness speak to us, giving the advice to do everything. But just before the talks, what was that? Before the His Holiness talk, start, and when you enter into His Holiness, where there's a big hall giving the public audience, and we're together in group audience, we sit, and then these floors are there all clean. There's no, you can see like anything, like even just one hair, you could see that. What happened was one interesting thing was like there was one bodyguard was walking, in front of us, and there was one small insect, I think flies or something, or maybe ant. And I remember that's really clearly. It was really strange, very strange. One ant, very small ant, was walking right in front of us. I saw that, and I was very worried that maybe someone stabbed that. I wanted to take the sand away and throw it outside to the grass or something. What happened was the ant was just walking in front of me, and then one bodyguard walked, and I think he stepped on the ant, and I was literally almost shout because I felt, we are in presence of His Holiness, that the Buddha's compassion. We should be non-violent. We have to. This is. I was only in 17 or 18 at that time, and when I saw this one bodyguard, actually, the security guard, he was not aware there's a small ant on the ground on the floor. He walked, and I think he stepped on the ant. I'm not sure whether he did the ant died or not, but I was so, my mind makes little uneasiness. Oh my God, he stepped on this ant in the Buddha's compassion resident. Kind of, feeling, but of course there were so many things are there that you can carry for a lifetime. Very profound, very, very present, very, very feeling like it's so fortunate to listening to him. And we listen, he gave like advice for us like about 45 minutes or 50, something like that. It was my first time having audience inside in his residence with a group of nuns, like 150, no, I think 250, I think 250, and then all our teachers are there. So I never forget this moment at all. And all whatever he says, I remember almost everything. So this is my kind of sharing, and the memory carries still now. So this is very important. It's very special. It's a good story. What do you think?
Thank you for sharing, Geshema.
Yeah.
Thank you. So anybody else had any kind of experience of going for His Holiness or audience? Could be private, could be in group. I think we're sorry. I think we are already, our time is already, it's 10, which means 1.5 already gone, right?
For you, it's 10, right?
It's okay. It's okay to, because study business psychology meanings we need to know, we need to study about how the mind work, and then you often just try to think, okay, Scout, you were saying about the brain and this. I'm not really sure about the mental consciousness have any special connection with the brain or not. So yes, okay. Earlier I was asking about whether person is knower or not. So technically, person is not the knower. The mind of the person is knower. Because of the mind know things, and then the person know. We label the person know. So the eye consciousness see the flower. The person, it just we label that the person see the flower, and then the tongue of our tongue taste the food and eat. We eat the food. So the person is so anyway, these are something that need to be studied in detail in later. So now the direct perceiver. I think direct perceiver, what does it mean? And then conceptual mind. And conceptual mind is very important to know, because the conceptual mind is the one that you need to train, and through meditation, through analytical meditation, as well as single point of meditation. And then slowly the conceptual mind can transform into non-conceptual, which is like a when the conceptual mind, through the training, become a non-conceptual mind, and it's become the yogi direct perceiver, or mental yogi direct perceiver, mostly meaning the conceptual mind that perceiving the impermanence, or understanding of the dependent origination, or the cause and effect. These are the phenomena that the mental consciousness contemplate on the object, and then try to learn how this reality is existing, and then try to understand its, try to understand how is it, and through the generic image, engage into the object. And then when you go to closer to the object, and you'll find, using the analytical meditation, analyzing how it exists. In reality, it's impermanent, but we are apprehending it's a permanent. In reality, it's impure, but we are apprehending it's a pure. In reality, it's like a selflessness or emptiness, but we are holding it's like selfhood, or true existence. And these are the things that you need to train. So because of the mental consciousness, the most important. And of course, you need to learn about that sensory consciousness, how it's operate, how it's really come to being. It's because of these, the sensory consciousness, the sense that our eyes, ears, nose, these are all kind of protect our body. Okay, so direct perceiver and non-direct perceiver, these are, we can learn a little bit later, but I think today we will finish here. So why